there he is.
Hey, Jeff, what's
There he
happening, man?
Trent Darby thing in the background still holding the fort.
I'm every day I think of hanging that thing, and it's like, no, man, I got to leave that there for Jeff.
If anything, leave it there just for me, especially as long as we're going to keep doing these interviews together. I love seeing that. It always puts me in a good mood.
That's great, man. That is great. Jeff, I was thinking about it. I think this is the sixth time you've been on the show, and
Fine, Scott, dude. I think I'm going to move in at this point.
You're welcome to, man. You're welcome. And I'm honored and I'm thankful because I know that not everybody in this business and what I do and my colleagues have integrity when they do it, and you've been taken out of context, and there's just that clickbait kind of thing that's just it's tough to deal with for you, and I know you've posted about it, and so I do my best to give it to you, not fit in a narrative or anything like that.
And that's the worst part about what we're doing here. It's gotten to the point where you really have to watch your P's and Q's and how you dot your I's and T's.
Yeah.
I hate that. I love the unabolished being able to just talk without worrying and concern that you're going to piss somebody off, or it's going to come off the wrong way, or somebody's going to turn into clickbait. It really stinks. It gets me to the point where I don't want to do these things anymore. But I also know that there is a responsibility that I have in promoting and making sure that people know about the music. But there also is a responsibility to people like yourself that if you ask something that's going to turn into something that not meant to happen that way, it's going to turn into the wrong content. And so you try to find that balance, that middle ground where you're not pissing anybody off, but you're also not thinking too much about what you're saying and how you're saying it.
Yeah, and I've always appreciated that with you. You're honest, you're upfront, you're respectful, you're professional. These are all wonderful things, man. It makes it extra special. You're not only the most prevalent guest I've had, you're my favorite guest to have too. You really are.
I mean, that means a lot. And again, I wish things wouldn't be taken out of context the way they have been or the way they are, because I would like to just speak from the heart without worrying about these kinds of things. It really stinks to have to think about every single detail that's not going to turn into another headline or the wrong headline.
Right.
But you kind of learn as you go. And one thing, especially when I'm talking about Journey or Yngwie, I know how to answer now without it having to be out of context. I almost do things on purpose for those clickbait sites to go, oh, that's not newsworthy. I'm not going to print that because it's too friendly. It's too sugar coated. It's too Disney.
Right. Yeah. And that's terrible though. I mean, you should be able to speak your mind and not have it fit an agenda of some kind.
But it is what it is. And it's big picture for me is that I want people to know what I'm doing and I want them to understand what I'm doing. And if they're going to turn something that I'm saying into something else, that's their problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about that, man. Well, you're always doing something. So, I mean,
damn straight.
You're the busiest guy ever. There's a lot of busy guys out there. Michael Sweet comes to mind, who, of course, he's always got his hands and stuff, but you are just all over the place. And it's so great. I wasn't going to give you an intro this time because you practically live here, but but I have to. I'm looking at this thing, your resume, and I'm thinking, this is spectacular, and this is something that everybody should know if they don't know already. Jeff starts his career as a singer for the first two Yngwie Malmsteen records, classic records. So Marching Out, still one of my favorite records of all time.
And 18 years old on top of that.
Yeah, it's just insane. That's some 40 years ago now. Still sounding great. Lending your vocal magic to more than 60 records.
Or maggots.
As long as I do 24 years now, I still can't do it right.
That's all good. I'm the same.
60 records on the resume, more than 60 records.
More than,
fronted bands like Talisman, Journey for a short time, Sons of Apollo, many more, countless sessions. Slaughter, Dokken, Stryper, Lita Ford, and that's just the rock stuff. Successful solo career. Trans-Siberian Orchestra, 2 records with them and countless tours. The solo record. This is your 8th solo record. It's called Complicated. It comes out on May 6th on Frontiers, of course. And Frontiers, you and Frontiers still have that relationship. You're doing some A&R for Frontiers somewhat, right?
I was not so much anymore.
Okay.
I'm just too busy. And to be honest with you, I'd rather not be. I have to believe in this something. I have to believe in something before I'm going to take it to them at this point. I don't want to go out scouting looking for it. I'd rather it come to me or kind of fall in my lap before I take it to them. So I'd rather do my A&R kind of stuff, kind of behind the scenes and kind of flying under the radar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is 20 years. My first album with Frontiers is 2002. So this is our 20-year anniversary now.
That's great.
This is my 20-year anniversary album. I wish we'd done something with a little more hoopla, like maybe like a box set or an anniversary type of thing. But, you know, it is what it is in terms of this day and age that everything is more about streaming and digital. It's really hard to do things that make financial sense to you know, kind of celebrate and overblow a situation. Like a 20-year anniversary would be great, but financially I don't want to put them in a hole. So it's best that we just continue moving ahead and moving forward than trying to celebrate something that's going to turn into a money pit.
Right. And, you know, I mean, the 30th anniversary is right around the corner, you know.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I just got to record and live another 10 years.
Don't even say that. Now, I saw you did a show with, you're doing shows with Beeler.
Yeah.
Jason Beeler, of course, Saigon Kick. You did one with Beeler and McLaren
Yes.
in South Carolina. I love South Carolina. That was great to see. Yeah, I had Chris McLaren and Phil Verona on, and those guys are a kick, man.
I love it. Saigon Kick.
Now you're touring too with Beeler a little bit. You're going to be here in Chicago, right?
Yeah, these are more weekend warrior things that we're doing, and we do them when and if we can, and it's perfect timing for us to do them. And this thing is building. It started as just something that we enjoy doing because Jason and I have been friends literally since 1988. We've known each other a long time, and we're not necessarily doing anything new musically together. So this is more of a way for us to celebrate the past. It's to celebrate his and my past. Mm-hmm. But we get to do them in more of a singer-songwriter way. But more importantly, we get to do it in a way that more represents us, which is the humor. Is not, if anything, he is one of the funniest and most clever, wittiest people on the planet. So to bounce off somebody like that in a live setting is so exciting for me. It's exciting to me as the first time I hit a stage as a teenager. I get the same thrill and the same joy doing what I'm doing with Jason that I'm doing even currently with Sons of Apollo or Trans-Siberian Orchestra or anything. And that's when you can, at this level and this stage of your life, I'm almost pushing 60, still find a joy in something new and exciting like that. You grasp onto it and you try to build on it as much as possible.
Man, that is great to hear. That is really, yeah. Jason's been on the show and he's a kick again. He's a riot, man.
It's almost impossible to interview Jason without falling on the floor laughing half the time because it's the same way hanging. We could be driving in the car with no audience and just bouncing off each other. And it's just a natural way that we act and the way we are, that you see us on stage is exactly the same. There's nothing preconceived and nothing thought out. It's just us.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's great that you guys get that enjoyment still. Absolutely. You know? Tell me about the writing for Complicated. Now I'm listening to this record and, you know, it's a Frontiers record. It's your solo stuff. Did you write these songs? I know you got Alessandro in the band playing bass, Alessandro Davecchio, of course. I know a lot of the Frontiers stuff is written and you kind of just fit into it. How did the writing work for Complicated?
The same as it worked for Wide Awake My Dreamland. And this is the same way I've been writing for pretty much everything since the 90s. I'm accomplished enough as a musician to write the things that I've done. I can write a ballad on a piano. I can write a general kind of commercial song with a guitar. But I've found the strongest material comes from me when I work with the people who actually play their instruments as their craft, who actually excel in their instruments. Mm-hmm. I'm not a accomplished guitar player or keyboardist. So from that, you're going to get a more simple, elementary way of a song that's coming to my head, because I can't perform anything beyond that. So it's not going to be anything more than that unless I'm co-writing with somebody else who's more accomplished on their instrument. This is why I prefer for me to complete the picture after it's already been kind of mapped out. You give me the painting in black and white, I'll fill in the colors. That to me is the same way I'm writing with Alessandro. He writes the music, he plays all the parts, he sends me everything ready to go for me to just basically fill in the blanks, fill in the lyrics, fill in the melodies, harmonies, etc. And that to me is where I get the best material, the best outcomes from all the things that I'm doing. Alessandro, he really blew me away on the writing of Wide Awake in My Dreamland. But on this album, he took it to not necessarily the next level, but one of the things that we focused on working together, he wanted to bring out the best of what he loves about my career. And a lot of that is Talisman. And that's a lot of what's missing in my current releases and the things that I'm still doing currently. So he really tapped into the Talisman end of things for Complicated. You listen to it, it truly sounds like there's stuff on there that sounds like I co-wrote it with Marcel. It's that strong and that close to Talisman. And I love that because I'm dabbling a little bit here and there with the Talisman end of things and the things that I'm doing, especially even w.e.t, because that's right. The lineage comes from Sweden, and that's how they write and that's how they think. But Alessandro really tapped into the Talisman end of things for this particular record, because we both agreed that's the one part of my life and my career musically that's missing. And we went for it. And it's at points and times, I swear I'm listening to a Talisman record.
Oh man, that's got to be really special for you too.
Very rewarding for me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's no easy feat when you think about it, because again, I couldn't write a Talisman song by myself if you paid me, because I can't play guitar or bass or the musical parts that, well enough to actually come up with those kinds of ideas. Alessandro can, and he knew how to tap into that without sounding like we're stealing or right. There's no plagiarism, but it's absolutely influenced by.
Yeah, it's another great record. But you have your Soto drummer, Edu Caminado, and you have the guitarist from Wide Awake, right. Fabrizio Gattoni. Yeah. His work here is, all of these guys are just, exceptional. It's amazing the musicians you get to play with. It's like it's a playground, man. Fabrizio, incredible solos on this.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. There's an expectation. There's an expectation of, my career started with one of the biggest legends of guitar in the business, Yngwie Malmsteen. Mm-hmm. How do you do anything after that unless you're doing things that kind of tap into that world of legendary guitar playing, guitar style, the frenetic end of things? You can't do things in the future that are not going to be compared to the past. So from that, I always try to surround myself with the best of the best. And somebody like Fabrizio is completely unknown in the rest of the world. He's shining on these records like he's right alongside with the Bumblefoots and the Yngwies and the Neil Sean's, Brian Mays of the world. He's a world-class guitar player that nobody's ever heard of. And I'm so honored that they get to finally hear him on my records. It's, to me, that's more important than me releasing more records that you've heard me sing on a billion times.
Yeah, and it's special. I mean, it's really special. His guitar playing with your voice, and I mean, like I say, to have your voice, in front, painted onto a canvas with these guys,
right,
is so special.
And that's why even Edu's with me. I try not to mash up the band Soto as a band. I'm not going to make solo records. Every solo record with Bumblefoot, because we're in another band together. I don't like to convolute the careers and kind of cross cross paths with him. But somebody like Edu he's the kind of drummer that thinks the way I would think as a drummer if I could play the drums. So it doesn't make sense for me to work with anybody else for these particular records. I have to work with Edu on these records, even though he's my drummer in another band. And he's one of the exceptions that I always keep in my arsenal.
Yeah. It is an arsenal, man. These guys are just so good. Thank you. Hit me a really special way. It's a real standout track for me. And I don't. It's just it's such an appreciative kind of thing. There is an appreciation and a sincereness in your voice. That was written by Alessandro, correct?
Musically, yes, and the lyrics and the lyrics and the melodies are me.
Okay. Yeah. So who is in mind? Is there anybody in particular?
Musically, or who I wrote it about?
Who you wrote it about?
The funny thing is, every single one that's listened to that song thinks it's a tribute to my wife or a relationship or a partner. That song, every single lyric was written to my fans. That song is my thank you to my fans, and that's why it's called Thank You. If you read the lyrics, it could absolutely sound like I'm thanking somebody for nurturing and taking care of me, for making me feel special, making me feel loved. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm thanking my fans for exactly those things.
And it hit me that way. I thought maybe your parents or, something.
Yeah.
It's so sincere.
I got to tell you, bro, I write all my lyrics, maybe not all, about 98% of my lyrics are written with double entendre. I absolutely want you to I want you to find your own feeling and your own meaning behind what you think the song is about and who it's for or what it's for. Because I could be writing about a relationship, but it actually could be related towards a world event or a political leader or somebody you used to work with or know, or your former boss. You can take the lyrics and equate them to so many different situations. You take a lyric like, I want to rock and roll all night, party every day. You know what that song's about. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Right.
But a song like Thank You can be taken, it can be derived towards, it could be a thank you to my parents, could be to a loved one. In this case, it's to my fans, but without telling anybody that, it can be derived in so many different ways. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a special track. It really is. And thank you for writing it for us.
Unintended, but not boom.
It's pretty special. Any of your fans, need to get it for sure. It's special. It's a special gift.
I appreciate it. And to be honest with you, I wasn't upset. I wasn't let down or anything, but I was kind of hoping, because I always let Frontiers choose the singles. I don't want to choose the wrong songs. I don't want to say, okay, these are the ones that definitely have to be singles, and then the album bombs because of my decision.
Right.
I like when the label does things with me. That means they're involved. That means they feel like they're a part of it, and they're going to get behind it a little more. So the fact that they didn't choose Thank You as one of the singles, it would have been cool if they had, and I could have fought it. I could have said, I really think this should be a single, and they would have respected it. But I followed their lead on the releases for the record. And Thank You, I'm hoping, is going to be one of those sleeper things that people grasp onto, realizing what it's about and who it's for.
Yeah, and I think so. I really do. I hope so too. And Disbelieving also hit me really hard. That's just such a, I don't know. There's certain things. Your voice inflections are always great, but there's certain ways you hit me and it just strikes a nerve, and I get chills every time. It's something special, man. No doubt.
That's another one that lyrically, it's actually about, it's kind of like it has a lot to do with the divisions and the separations, and that a lot of the things that are going on in society today. But if you just read the lyrics as lyrics, it looks like a relationship that's just kind of gone sour between two people that, you're trying to make it all happen, but there's just too much of a disconnect that the relationship is over. So yeah, it's again another one of those double entendre situations.
Yeah, and I think I really cue into that. It's I can, like you say, I can make my own assumption for it and fit it into my life. It really, Yeah, it's pretty special.
Like the difference between reading a book and watching the movie. When you read the book, you're going to have a little more personal connection to it than you spend 2 hours watching a story that's 400 pages. It would have taken you a week to get through. And in 2 hours, it's over. And you're like, okay, well, that's somebody else's interpretation of what I thought this story would have been about.
Right. And you're crafting that face of the actor. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, the movie puts it there for you.
Right. Exactly.
And that's kind of what you do with your music is
Absolutely.
I paint that picture with your voice and the music. It's great. It's just so much fun.
Absolutely.
It's great. You're always doing sessions. I know you're on tribute albums, you're on this album, you're on everything. Stuff that we might not even ever hear. Tell me, what have you worked on recently that, you just kind of did, and because fans like myself, I want to hear everything you've done, man. I want to hear the commercials, the radio spots. It's just the hardcore fan wants to know. They want to seek it out. They want to go find it. They want to hear what you're doing. Have you done anything like that recently? Is this something?
There were a lot of things done, especially during the lockdown, during quarantine, that are now starting to slowly start coming to pass. Starting to release things. I don't know if, again, it's hard to talk about things that I'm not directly involved with. I did the sessions, or I did the actual sessions, but they might have changed along the way. Like maybe there's a band name now, or there's an artist name, that how they're going to release it and how they're going to present it.
Right.
There's an album I did with a guy named David DeLuna during the lockdown, and it's a unique situation. He was a musician in the 80s. He was doing his music, and then he started working for his father, and then he got married, had a family and all that, and he basically walked away from music. Music was so important to him. It was the biggest dream of his life when he was younger, but he walked away from it. He stopped pursuing it. Great guitar player, great writer, but he thought, I got to be more responsible. I have a family now. His father just passed away recently, and his father's dying wish was that he go back and finally release an album, finally do something that meant so much to him back in the day. And he made a promise to his father. So I got he was working with Philip Bino, who was a Steve Vai's bass player. And Philip reached out to me and he told me about this guy. And he said, he's writing this thing, he's making this thing. And he wanted to know if you're interested in writing with him and being on the record. And I didn't really, normally I wouldn't have had the time or the interest to do something like that. But during COVID, I had way more time, and the creative outlet of getting involved with as many things as possible is kind of what kept me sane. That was kind of my therapy.
Right.
But the first thing, we had a long conversation on the phone because it was during COVID. We couldn't meet up in person. And he was going over all the details of his life and how he got to this point. And then we started talking about the songs. He sent me the songs. Musically, it was great. I love the songs. Very King's X,
nice
groove of killer guitar work, etc. And he said, I'm not a lyricist and I'm not a melody writer. This is where you come in, but I do have themes. Each individual song was written for a particular theme and message. And he went down the line with each song. This song was about, I wrote this with this meaning behind it. I want to make it be sung about this or written about this, and this one about that, etc. down the line. So I took all that information and I wrote the lyrics based on his ideas and his thoughts. And from it, I knocked it out of the ballpark of exactly what he wanted, musically and lyrically.
Wow.
We did the record, and I just kind of forgot about it because of all the other things that were kicking in and I was doing. And he finally reached out to me, sent me a copy of the record. It is amazing. Now, again, I think it's just going to be called DeLuna. That's his last name. Or I don't know if it's David DeLuna, whatever it is. But the album is amazing. There's one song in particular, I go, oh my God, this would sound so killer. I told him this would sound so great, me and Doug Pinnick duetting on it. Because, oh my God, Doug is King's X, and Doug's one of my favorite, biggest influence. That would be the biggest dream. I could die and go to heaven if that happened. I go, stand by. I gave Doug a call. I played him the song. He goes, I'm down. He gave the guy an amazing discount price because he loved the song. He liked the idea of us doing it together. Doug Pinnick is on the song, and it's a
Ah.
song called Monster. It sounds like everything you want in a King's X song and then some, because we're doing it together.
Oh man, that had to send him into dreamland.
Oh yeah, he's because aside of the fact that everything that we did together was exactly how we always envisioned his stuff sounding, but then to actually get Doug on one of those with him and with me on it, he was just over the moon. And again, the results will speak for themselves when this album finally gets heard.
That's cool. That's cool.
So that's one of many things that I got to do during the lockdown that I normally wouldn't have time to do or might not have interest to do because it might kind of convolute or conflict with the other releases and the other things I'm doing. But we didn't know how long this whole thing was going to last, and who knows how much further it's going to continue to influence us moving into the future. So I'm not going to just sit back and say I'm do things the way I'm normally used to doing them. I'm going to do them in a different way to kind of meet something that works for me.
Yeah, and it's still a tough time, and that was a really tough time.
Yeah, indeed.
And you've done all kinds of music. You've explored your abilities and challenged yourself in all kinds of genres and things like that. And what got me thinking was Mark Tremonti. I don't know if you've heard that.
Oh yeah,
Sinatra.
absolutely.
It's just so cool. And I thought, you're one of those guys that would do something like I mean, you sing the phone book and it sounds great. It's you could do that. Is there something like that you've always kind of wanted to do? Go into another genre of some kind, maybe Latin
Absolutely.
or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of my guilty pleasures is the thing that influenced me and inspired me the most, and that's soul music. That's Motown and R&B and that whole style. One of my guilty pleasures as well is Bruno Mars. I love that kid. I think he's amazing. He's so talented and he's doing things. We always talk about that Terence Trent D'Arby album in the background. That's my wheelhouse outside of rock.
Well, your first album, Love Parade's similar.
Yes and no. I mean, it was
some of that stuff.
Yeah, and to do that, the kind of record like that, I would have to work with somebody who works in that field, because Love Parade was all me. It was me just doing my interpretation of what I feel I could do. But when I listen back to it, it doesn't even come close to the Terrence world or the Prince or the Bruno Mars world. Right. I would love to do a record like that with people who do only that style of music and allow me to kind of step away from the rock world. But then again, not, because I would probably bring the rock influence into something that normally wouldn't be in that kind of music, the same way I bring that into the rock music. I try to marry those two worlds together because they're so influential in my DNA. It'd be impossible for me to hide them.
Yeah. That would be exciting, man. I love the Love Parade record. I really do, because I love that stuff too.
Yeah.
I know you got another one. I got one more question for you, Jeff. If you could sit down and have a conversation with anybody in the world, alive, anybody, who would it be?
I used to say Freddie Mercury, but I have a feeling I would rather write and create with Freddie Mercury, and the conversation would probably have to be with Prince, because there's so much about what makes that guy tick that you don't get to see on the you don't get to hear in the music. I have my own specific questions and my own kind of inquiries that I would have loved to have sat down with him and kind of pick his brain.
Anybody alive?
Anybody alive? I would be, if we don't have Freddie Mercury, it would be Brian May. Now, Brian and I are friends and have been for a long time, but if I had to do an interview with him, like a sit down, oh my God, he would be like, I had no idea you knew so much about my life. I'm such an uber Queen fan, and kind of you study all the things that you're interested in, and you study those album covers, you study interviews, all those different things that you wonder what makes these people tick. There are a lot of things that I would love to ask Brian that probably never been asked, and I'm sure he'd be like, whoa, that's an interesting question. Where'd you come up with that one?
Yeah, and that's what I love too. You're a student of the game. I'm the same way. I actually was watching a movie, and there's not too many guys sound like you, but I'm watching this movie, This guy here, he sounds just like you, man. He sounds just like you.
It's strange. The guy that sang all those songs, it's strange. His name is JSS. What a strange coincidence.
It was so cool. Willie, did you get a chance to meet Willie Dixon on that set or anything?
I think I did. I just
Okay.
All I remember is that the movie was so low budget, and
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a lot better. The outcome was going to be better than it actually was.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I saw a private screening of it, and when I saw how poorly it was edited and acted, this is one of the reasons I came up with an excuse. I told the people behind the movie, I said, hey, I just spoke to my label, and they're not allowing me to put the courtesy, Jeff Scott Soto Pierce courtesy nod on there. So
Wow.
you have to take my name off of it. Oh, well, we can't do that. You have to have your name. I go, well, let's take my initials and let's make a name out of that. Let's take JSS, and JSS is the singer on there. People will figure it out. They'll hear my voice. They'll know it's me. And to be honest with you, I just didn't want my name associated with the movie because it was a bad movie. The songs are great.
Yeah. The songs are really cool.
Jack Ponte, those are Jack Ponte's songs, and that guy's a great songwriter from back in the day. And I love the songs, but the movie was atrocious.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And I love Shireen. She's a friend, and she's,
absolutely,
and it was great to see her. But yeah, the movie is pretty bad.
And I'm actually still friends with the bass player in the movie. He's played by Robert Mitchum's grandson.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's a guy. His name is Bentley Mitchum. Is Robert Mitchum's grandson, and I was like, you know what? At that point in time, in the late '80s, that's the closest I'm going to get to movie star legend status. I'm friends with the grandson of a movie legend.
Yeah, there you go. It's always great to hear you, Jeff. It was great to hear you in that movie. It is great to hear you on this new record. Complicated comes out May 6th on Frontiers, of course.
Yes.
Everybody's got to hear it, especially thank you. A gift to us as fans, and we love you, man. We appreciate you. You're always welcome here. I hope you come back soon. I love you, Jeff, and thanks so much, man.
That means the world to me. And I'm packing my things now. I should be moving in by the next 2 weeks. So expect a knock on the door.
You got it, man. My daughter will love it. I gotta tell you.
All right, brother. You have a great week, and
right.
we will speak soon.
All right, you bet. Take care, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.